If you're anything like I was, you've got a pedal board full of mismatched patch cables that are a little spotty from gig to another. You're always hunting for one that's going bad. They don't fit. You can't squeeze enough pedals on your pedal board. That's how I was until I discovered Tour Gear Design's patch cables. They're the smallest patch cables in the game. They're rock solid, extremely dependable, and I love what they make. And now I've partnered with Tour Gear Designs to get you 10% off your order by using the affiliate code down below in the description box. You can get 10% off using code 40WATT, 40WATT, but this deal gets even better. For my Patreon supporters, you actually are eligible for 20% off. You have to register with the same email address you use on Patreon and message the company, say you're one of my Patreon supporters, and you can get 20% off your order with Tour Gear Designs, the best patch cables in the game. This podcast is made possible in part through a partnership with TrueFire. TrueFire is the most comprehensive guitar learning experience on the internet, with over 51,000 guitar lessons from the best educators in the world. It makes TrueFire the #1 most trusted music education resource for guitar players. We as guitar players sometimes get fixated on the gear that we play, and we neglect the skill level that we play. And many of us have a hard time finding instructors locally. TrueFire bridges that gap. You can find my affiliate link below to get 40% off with my code 40WATT of your first purchase through TrueFire. Learn, practice, play, TrueFire. This podcast is made possible by the support of many wonderful people over on Patreon. If you would like to support this show and help make sure it keeps going, you can go over to patreon.com/40wattpodcast, where for as little as $3 a month, you can help make sure this show keeps happening. Thank you for all of your support. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome 40 Watt Podcast. I'm so pumped to be with y'all this week. I know it's been a little while. Or maybe not. Maybe I've had these episodes out. I've got them out far enough in advance now that I may be talking completely out of school on this. But want to welcome you to this week's podcast. Gonna do our thing where we talk about our patrons at the top of the show because they literally keep this show going. Eventually, this list of patrons is going to get too long for me to read off live at the top of the shows. But for now, I can do this. So in no particular order, want to thank Henry Klubakowski, Brian May, but not that Brian May, Heinrich Nordvang of Nordvang Custom Pedals, Tony DeGraw, Steve Rao of 60 Cycle Hum, Andrew Bimson, Abe Matthews, Jordan Galash, Duncan Watson, Andy Johns, David Evangelista of the Guitar Dads podcast, Blake Jefferson, Nick Call, Andrew Hensley, Alan Gresham, Dan Pilver of Lewitt Audio, Scott Hamilton of the Effects Loop podcast, Andy Koning, Jim Burns, Tom Kelly, Heath Batt, Ben Fair of Electromotive Sound Company, Rick Calhoun of Honey Picks, Jeffrey Walks, and Kyle Harris. And my phone buzzing on my desk. Turning that off. All right, y'all. Thank you so much for joining us this week. Super excited. We're going to jump right into it because I've had I've got a guest here that we've been trying to get on for a little while. Since you basically blew up on the scene, because you absolutely blew up on the scene, and we're going to talk about that because that's got to be an entire experience. So,
oh my God, absolutely.
Guest this week is Dylan Adams. Y'all knew that. Y'all saw the title. Y'all knew who was here. What's up, Dylan? How are you?
Doing good, man. How are you? Thanks for having me. Sorry it took so long for me to finally get on your podcast because, like you said, you did message me forever ago, and I've just been super busy and just had a lot going on. But I'm happy to be here, man.
Hey, busy. That feels like an understatement. So we're gonna get into this, but give us the quick. Since it's your first time on the show, we always try to do this. The quick 5-minute like elevator speech version. How'd you get into music? How'd you get into playing guitar? You're kind of most known for your slide guitar playing, although you're an incredible guitar player without a slide on your finger. So talk about how you got into it. How'd you get to where you are?
So I started playing guitar when I was about 9 years old. It's kind of a combination of a few things. I have some family members who are musicians in my extended family, mostly cousins and things. But so I was kind of around it here and there as a kid, just, and saw family members playing and thought it was cool. But the thing that really kind of was the spark was actually, I talked about this in one of my videos recently, but the, it sounds silly, but the video game Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 4, the intro song to that video game is TNT by AC/DC.
Yeah.
And just hearing that for the first time, it absolutely like blew my mind, and I thought it was the coolest thing ever. Um, and yeah, I just
There's a whole generation of guitarists that Tony Hawk was their gateway into playing music,
I know it's kind of crazy.
regardless of which one it is.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy to say that like a video game is kind of like the initial thing like it started playing guitar, but yeah, so I heard that song and was just like, what is that? I have to, and like I have to
Yeah.
like find out what that is. And so yeah, my parents went out and bought me the High Voltage album, like a CD by AC/DC, and yeah, that was like my, because when you're around that age is when you kind of first start to like be really like aware of music or kind of pay attention to music, and that was that
Yeah,
moment for
absolutely.
me. And yeah, not long after that, I asked my parents if I could get a guitar, and they said sure. Um, so yeah, it took me to Walmart and grabbed whatever little first stack acoustic off the shelf, and yeah, I was off to the races. And not long after that, one of my cousins gave me my first electric guitar. It was a PV, I think it's called like a Phantom or something, Strat copy, Fiesta Red. Yep, there you go. Nice.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Fiesta Red maple fretboard. Yeah, just Strat copy, and yeah, and from there, I mean, like I think I had a friend um, show me how to read tablature, just on Ultimate Guitar, um, and yeah, I mean, just all throughout, I mean, childhood and early teen years, I just kind of did it for fun. Just learned whatever songs I was into, which was mostly like classic rock and a little bit of metal and stuff like that, but mainly like kind of 70s classic rock, hard rock type stuff. And and then when I was around 14 or 15, I don't know how exactly it happened, but some Allman Brothers ended up on my iPod, and I had been hearing it around the house for my whole life because my dad has always been a huge fan of them. But to me, they sounded like too
He was
old.
slipping you the Allman Brothers. He was how it got on there.
Yeah, well, yes, right. So yeah, I mean that's I guess how it ended up on there. But yeah, I mean, I'd always heard it, and growing up, but to me, it sounded a little bit just too old. Like I was into like like AC/DC and stuff like that, and Allman Brothers were a little more like kind of blues based. So I didn't quite get it until I was around, like I said, 14 or 15, and um, I saw that I had some Allman Brothers on my iPod. I'll just go listen to it, and I heard Statesboro Blues from the Fillmore East album for the first time, and that like that was like the second, like the AC/DC, like the Tony Hawk thing, that was like my first like epiphany moment. And then hearing Dwayne play slide on Statesboro Blues was the other one where I was just like, oh my god, like that is just like I just had to learn how to do that. It just sounded so incredible. Like I just couldn't understand how he could be that precise and that fluid with a slide, because all I had done with slide up until then was just like just go boop up and down the fretboard. So yeah, I mean, I heard that, and it just, yeah, absolutely lit a fire in me to start learning to play slide. And I mean, just I kind of got obsessed with the Allman Brothers, and Dwayne, Dickie, Derek Trucks, Warren Haynes, the whole thing, and just totally dove headfirst into that rabbit hole, and just learned all of that. The Fillmore East album, top to bottom, note for note, and just dug into as much as I could. And then that kind of led me into getting into blues and jazz and funk and all sorts of things. And so yeah, and then when I was around when I was 17 or 18, I kind of started realizing, like, I was starting to become a pretty decent player, and I was like, I think I might want to like actually do this for real. And I was fortunate enough to be able to go to Berklee College of Music for 2 years, and
Okay.
and then ended up leaving there. Went to Nashville for a couple years for 1 year after that, and then didn't work
Mhm.
out at the time, so moved back to Jacksonville, and been here ever since. And that's pretty much my life story as a guitarist.
Yeah.
So it's obviously skipping over a lot,
So
but
so Jacksonville is interesting. Because I realize between like I don't have like a long list of names here, but I've got a couple. You know, you're in Jacksonville. Derek Trucks is famously in
mhm,
Jacksonville, which also mean obviously Susan Tedeschi is in
yeah.
Jacksonville, but particularly slide players. Like that's already two big names. Is it just a thing in Jacksonville? Are there a lot of slide guitar players in that area?
Well, yes and no. I mean, specifically slide players, not a ton, but I mean, I'd say
Hmm.
there's like sort of a whole scene here that is very much influenced by the whole, Allman Brothers, Grateful Dead, Widespread Panic, like sort of jam band thing. And so there are
Sure.
people who do play slide, but like, there's not a ton of other people who are like, their whole life is dedicated to it, Um,
Right.
but
That makes sense.
um, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, honestly, personally, I just kind of think it's a coincidence that I'm from here and I play slide. But I mean, but yeah, it's funny. I get comments and messages and stuff saying like, "Oh, there must be something in the water down in Jacksonville or something like that." But
Well, it's our mutual friend Joey
hmm,
Landreth and the whole Winnipeg scene. Like
right,
there are
right.
so many incredible musicians coming out of Winnipeg,
I
Alberta,
know it's
Canada,
so
or
random, but
Alberta, Manitoba. I think it's Manitoba. Joey's gonna kill me
I
because I
think
can't
that
get
yeah,
this
that
right. My
sounds right. That
Canadian
sounds
listeners are
right.
gonna
I
kill
don't
me.
know for sure
Yeah.
either though.
Um, but yeah, there's Joey and there's Ariel and but then there's also obviously David.
hmm
This incredible music scene coming out of Winnipeg,
And a
and
whole
I'm like, God,
songwriting scene from the
it's
from the sound of it.
yeah, it's such a wild thing to see these pockets pop up, and I don't know if there's like I don't want it to like dive like conspiracy levels down into
Right.
it, but I do wonder if there's something about certain regions and the right musicians all being around that sort of foster a
Yeah.
culture that creates this really good breeding ground for uh I don't know music like style explosions. I'm from the Mississippi Delta, which is I think one of the places you can point
Oh, of
to
course. Yeah.
and say, there was absolutely something in
Oh
it
yeah.
there
Absolutely.
during a time period. And to this day, there are more talented musicians per capita in my hometown of Clarksdale than anywhere else I've ever been.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
ridiculous.
I mean, I think it is a phenomenon for sure. I mean, yeah, with it's at least with Jacksonville. I mean, honestly, I think you can kind of trace it back to the Allman Brothers and like, because I think Butch was from here, and
Hmm.
but yeah, I mean, basically when they all first got together here, I mean, they would do those free shows in the I forget where exactly it was, but just in the parks somewhere in town, and yeah, they would just put on free shows and just attract all the young people and just all the kind of counterculture people of the time, and I
Yeah.
think like yeah, just that kind of is like the spark, and then and a little bit later, Leonard Skinner came from there and or from here. And yeah, I think it
Hmm.
just kind of starts that lineage of just people in Molly Hatchet too, just of people like, the people around here, just they see that stuff and they're like, I want to do that. And then, it just kind of continues down the generations. Um, and yeah, so yeah, I mean, definitely here, I think it's kind of grown into a scene that's very much influenced by that stuff. And yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
with
it's
the
really
Mississippi Delta, I can only imagine. I mean, I've wanted to visit there for a long time because like they're the other guitarist in the band I play in, Smokestack. He's like the biggest like blues nut. Like he has he just has like he can just tell you all the just real obscure old school stuff. But he said he visited there. He did like a pilgrimage there several years ago, and that it was just like a going back in a time machine. Like you know, just real
it's a
spooky.
whole other experience.
So
Yeah, yeah. No, it's a whole other experience, and it's a town that has so well Clarksdale specifically,
mhm,
their Delta as a whole. It's so riddled in this mystique of the
mhm,
blues,
mhm,
but it's also a town fighting, economic decline, high poverty levels,
right,
and so you've got this balance that's really it's tough of people
I,
that want to come and experience all this stuff, but also a town that's basically fighting to
yeah.
not vanish,
Wow.
which is kind of a harsh term.
Yeah, that's got
It's
to be.
actually harsher than
Yeah,
that.
yeah. I mean, that's got to be just kind of like, a little bit of a, I don't know, just a weird thing for the local people there, just seeing all these people like, like, ooh, look at this this cool old
Yeah,
blues town, and then
yeah,
meanwhile, and then like, all right, see ya, and then and they're just still there all the whole time, just struggling. So, dang, I never
that's
even
it.
thought of that.
And it's yeah, but honestly, it's the blues tourism that's keeping it afloat at this
True.
point. Which so, please, listeners, if you've never been in the Mississippi Delta, please go there and spend your
Cool.
money because they need it.
Yep. I
Um,
will do that. I'd like to
if
do
you
that soon.
if you need a time to go, there's a festival, Juke Joint Festival,
Okay.
in Clarksdale. Excuse me, I've been getting over this like sinus crud, and it's from coughing. I'm trying to mute every time, but sometimes I can't.
Gotcha.
It's my favorite music festival in the U.S.
Wow.
because it's really great, and I feel like I talked about this on a really recent episode. No, I didn't. I was in Chicago, and I was talking to Tony Policastro from Acoustic Tuesday about this. So it's real cool because technically it's a 1 day music festival, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's Saturday. There's street musicians. There's like street vendors. Like it turns the whole like downtown into like a county fair type atmosphere.
Wow.
Um, bands set up in every possible nook and cranny. Places that aren't even technically a business the rest of the year open their doors and become a venue.
Just for
like just because there's so
event.
many bands in town.
Wow. And I
Yeah,
mean, I'm sure it
and
attracts like some of the most authentic, like baddest, like real deal blues bands,
it does.
out there.
Absolutely. I mean, normally Kingfish plays it every year
Sweet.
because he's from Clarksdale. He's a buddy of
Cool.
mine. But also like people like Jimbo Mathis, who kind of made his name in a band called Scornet Zippers, but he also has a great solo thing. He plays it every year. Reverend Peyton's Big Damn Band comes and plays it every year.
Nice.
Like that's one
Nice.
of their they're gonna come to this festival. But then there's also 120 bands you've never heard of.
Wow.
Everything from really cool original like blues music to just your typical blues cover band. Like I spent most of my life playing
Right.
in.
Right.
Um,
Damn, man. What
it's
time of year is that?
That's in April, so it's just before it's getting like
Like blistering hot.
ridiculously hot.
Gotcha. Okay. And
Um,
what's it?
it's
I'm
a
gonna
juke joint
Juke
festival.
Joint Festival. I'm gonna write that down.
Highly recommend it. If you go, let me know. I've played it. It's existed for 21 years, and I've played it every year. So
Cool, man. Cool.
it's the only thing I can say I've done consecutively for the last 21 years besides breathe.
Right. Right.
So
Dude, that's awesome. I definitely want to try and make it up for that. I mean, I feel like there's something to be said for seeing a real live blues band in person, like a real, truly authentic blues band in person. Because I feel like people
yeah,
like they have an idea of what the blues is, but like when you actually see it, like the real thing happening in front of you, it's like, oh, okay. Like, I mean, for me, I feel like that moment was actually the first time I saw the band that I'm now in, Smokestack, play. Because
yeah.
they were a band before I joined, and yeah, I think they've been a band since 2013, and they started out as just like straight up just blues, like no, because now we do all kinds of Allman Brothers and like other stuff, but yeah, they were like literally just a blues cover band, and it was a trio at first. They eventually added more people, um, but yeah, they used to host a weekly blues jam here in Jacksonville Beach, and a friend brought me up to it for the first time when I was like 18 or 19, and like I was already a huge like blues nerd at that point. Like I was like in it, but I hadn't really seen, like, I mean, aside from I saw BB King when I was like 13 or whatever, and so that's obviously the real thing. But seeing a blues band like right there in front of you, and I forget, I don't remember what song it was, but like they broke into a shuffle, and like just hearing that, like a real good shuffle groove in person for the first time, like seeing a drummer do the real like double shuffle, Texas shuffle type pattern, like
Yes.
dude, hearing that for the first time, it really had an impact on me. I was like, yeah, I was floored. Like it had a big effect on me, and yeah, and now eventually I was able to join the band and everything, and and I get to play with those guys every weekend, and it's great. But yeah, just it's like, yeah, I mean, I guess the point is like, yeah, just seeing a live blues band, I feel like it can kind of like, it can sort of, you know just wake you up a little bit in terms of like, okay, this is what really like blues is actually about, you know. So yeah, I would love to come
Well,
up to that
and
festival, man. That sounds awesome.
talking about the BB King thing, I've been lucky enough to open up for BB a couple of times
Oh,
over the
nice,
years.
man.
He's never was never anything but nice, and he was a huge influence on my guitar playing.
I mean,
Um,
isn't he for all of us? You know, I mean,
yeah, right.
just he's the guy.
But
Like,
I will say this: for people who are like, oh, I love the blues, I love BB King. I'm like, oh yeah, BB is authentic. Like I don't want anyone to ever get the mistake that I'm not saying, because obviously he's about as authentic as it
hmm
gets.
hmm
But by the time we all experienced BB, he was this polished thing,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Like the river had gone over that stone a lot until his
hmm
everything he did was, he knew it. Like this
yeah.
was it.
He
What
had his
what
like,
you're talking
mhm.
about, and for me, the same thing. Like I need someone to go into a club and hear a band who doesn't have a radio hit. They have no reason to play it the same way they've ever played it
hmm
before. They get on stage, they hit that shuffle, and when you've got a drummer whose pocket is so deep
Yes, dude.
that
Yeah,
chaos ensues around them and it still all sounds good. I play with a drummer. His name is Lee Williams. We call him Juice,
cool, cool.
or Pocket Knife, depending on which band he's
Nice,
playing
nice.
with.
I like
And
that one.
he's that kind of drummer.
Yeah, there's
And when
just
you hear it for the first time, it just grabs
I
you.
know, man.
Like,
I know. It's like, yeah, especially when when you hear it, and then when you get to play with the drummer like that for the first time, it just like
mhm.
it inspires you. You know, it brings it out of you. Like, yeah, drums and rhythm section is like it's everything to me, man. But especially playing the blues stuff, like, yeah, it's essential.
It can make you picky about
Yeah,
drummers, and in a way that is
yes,
almost
I know,
unhealthy.
dude.
You're like,
Yes, like I know me and the other guitarist in the band, Jack. We joke all the time about how like just picky we are with drummers and how hard we are on our drummer Ken Nasta. Like he is a total badass. He can totally like he can do anything we throw at him. But like, and he's just super like he has like no ego. He's like totally just we just yeah yeah, he'll take whatever we throw at him. But but yeah, man, like we joke about it, just how like if we ever have a drummer sit in, like if they, especially if we try and do a shuffle and they just, that's the one that we're like
oh,
shuffle connoisseurs, man. Like if they can't do a real shuffle, but and they just it feels horrible, when they can't do the real thing. It's just not the same. It's just not the same. So
yeah, that shuffle is always the standard bearer. It's like
mm-hmm.
you have it. I don't even have to say this, and I know you have it. Like we haven't even talked about this, but you have something that every time you go to a new Mexican restaurant, you order, and that's your bar for how good that restaurant
Yeah,
is.
right.
You know that if they can do this and do this well,
Then
everything else you order is
yes,
going to be good.
exactly.
That's the shuffle for the drummer. If the
Exactly,
drummer can
man.
do the shuffle, everything else is good.
Yep, got to have both hands doing the, and like
Yeah,
it's got to have that like.
and Lee,
Yeah,
my
go ahead.
drummer that I played with for years, Lee, he's left-handed,
Oh,
but he plays a right-handed kit.
gotcha.
So he plays
So his snare
guitarist. If
hand is
you've
extra
never
nasty
played
with that
drums,
shuffled in, probably. Like,
yes. And so guitarist, if you've never tried to sit down at a drum kit and thought about the logistics of left-handed versus right-hand playing, I'm about to make it real weird for
hmm
you. So he plays bass drum and hi-hat with his right-handed, as if with his feet.
right.
So his right foot is playing bass drum,
hmm
left foot is on hi-hat, but he plays open instead of cross stick. So
Oh,
his right hand is his snare hand and his left hand is the
gotcha,
hi-hat.
gotcha.
And so it's wild to watch him play. And that's just how he's played since he was 5.
Wow,
Like
man,
that's just
that's
how he's played, and it hurts me to tell you he's getting close to 40 now. Just so it tells me how old I am too.
right.
So
But yeah, and
um
I was gonna say we've probably already lost half of our guitar player listeners by talking about drummers right now. But I
I
mean,
know.
it's
Well,
important, man. It's
when
important,
when I when I had Mike Adams, we spent the first 20 minutes of the episode talking about Star Trek. So
Oh, well,
we're
okay.
already way more on topic here than
True.
usual.
Nice. But yeah,
So,
well, okay, go ahead. Yeah.
oh no, I was going to say, let's just move on just a little bit from there, because if we don't, this will just be a me talking about Delta Blues podcast. And
Yep.
while I love that, that is actually another podcast I'm thinking about.
Hey,
So
do it, man. Do it. But yeah,
yeah, no, it
let's
needs to
move
be
on.
done.
Let's move on.
Yeah, no, yeah. Let's talk a little bit more about your journey, because obviously, uh, here's the thing. and I need to cover this first before I ask the question, because I don't want anyone to think I'm like making light of it, because obviously you've been playing in this band. Y'all are gigging a ton.
Yeah,
Like y'all
pretty
play a
much.
lot.
Yeah, pretty much every weekend. Yeah, usually 2, 3, sometimes 4 days a week. Like, yeah, man, we're hitting it hard for sure.
And you're working a day job on top of that.
Yep, yep,
So
full
yeah,
time.
to give y'all an idea that playing 3-4 times a week does not pay the bills as a musician, no matter how good you are.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, and so you're doing that. You're posting a little to Instagram, and then Rhett Shull gets a hold of your Instagram and decides to put that up on a YouTube video. Rhett, friend of the show, he's been on he's been on once. We're trying to record a second episode, but that man doesn't sit
Oh
still
no,
for five
yeah, he's
minutes
hard to
is
get
the
a hold
problem.
of for sure.
Man. So he shares your video, and I watched, because I was real curious. I actually, the day he posted that video, I watched your Instagram. I was like, let's see how fast this grows. And I think you gained something like 10,000 in the first 2 hours of that video
Dude,
coming out.
something like that, man. It was absolutely nuts. Like, and he didn't tell me he was gonna do that either. Like, he didn't warn me ahead of time. So I woke up that morning to my phone just absolutely blowing up. Like, did you see the Red Shoal video? Did you see the Red Shoal video? I'm like, what Red Shoal video? And yeah, I go on there. I look. Yeah, it's like, by 9 in the morning, I have like 5,000 Instagram followers. It's like, yeah, it was yeah, that was a pretty insane day for sure. That was an insane day.
So it's probably been a little insane since.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
how? Because I mean, to the point that, you're talking with Joey Landreth now at this point. He's
Mm-hmm.
sort of like coaching you through some of this, which is great. I love that exists.
Mm-hmm.
And Joey and I talked about that a little bit. Joey loves that kind of stuff too, because he loves helping players and he loves
Yeah,
helping
he's
people.
he's
Just a
been
good dude.
yeah, man. He's been just awesome with me. Yeah, he's given me so much insight and advice. I kind of say he's like my musician therapist in a way. Like he because like, yeah, man, he just, he's really into like the kind of like mental health and psychology side of like, of what we do. And yeah, I mean, he's given me tips on that kind of stuff. I mean, just, in terms of like how to just navigate the online thing and just like people knowing who I am and
Yeah,
everything, and like having companies reached out to me and all that. He's just been a huge help with all that. Just a great dude. So yeah, Joey's
that's
Joey's
awesome.
awesome, man.
So how is that pressure since then? Like, because I suspect when it blows up like that, and especially with given your talent level at what you do, which is prodigious.
Oh man,
Um,
thank you.
no, seriously. At this point, you're like, when other slide guitarists that I consider mythical send me your video and like I don't understand what he's doing,
Oh my
I'm like,
god.
okay, that's wild to me. So, and I do the same thing. I watch your videos and I'm like, this mother is playing in standard tuning and doing this. We won't. I promise we won't go way down the tuning rabbit hole, because
Hey, we
y'all
can. I don't
go
mind.
follow Dylan's Instagram. Go follow his YouTube. He talks about that plenty. It's like when I jokingly ask Joey about his string gauge. You
Right,
get that question a million times.
right.
But so you've got these incredible chops. Then now you're exposed to a huge audience. The pressure to do something with that has got to be huge.
Yeah, man. It's yeah, definitely, because yeah, as soon as that happened, like I, it's kind of a double-edged sword, because it's like because I had been posting on Instagram and stuff for a while with like, no like specific goal in mind, but just hoping, I could just get a little something going, gain a little bit of a following and just see where it took me. But, once that happened, it was like, oh, okay. Like, okay, now, like you said, now I really, okay, now I need to capitalize on this right now.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, at first it was a little bit, kind of, yeah, just nerve wracking and intimidating. Like, oh, like, dang, okay, now I like kind of have to be consistent online. And I mean, I know I don't like have to be, but if I
Right.
want to keep this going, like, I need to like make sure I'm staying consistent from here on out. And so I kind of had to have a moment just sitting there like, all right, dude, like this is, you're gonna do this, you got to do this. But and yeah, it's definitely, I mean, there is an element of pressure, because yeah, I mean, it's like every yeah, every week I'm always like thinking about, all right, what's my next video going to be? Like I need to like, oh, I didn't get a, a good solo take at the last gig, so I'm gonna have to like gonna have to film something at home and blah blah blah, and then trying to get the YouTube up and running too. And so yeah, it definitely has been. There's definitely been a lot of pressure with. It's I think the consistency thing is the main thing, and just kind of like trying to keep it fresh and make it so I'm not just like playing the same stuff. Sorry, playing the same stuff over and over
Mhm.
again in the videos, and on YouTube, trying to like come up with tutorials and stuff that are actually useful and and helpful for people and stuff. So yeah, I mean, just overall, yeah, it's definitely been like a big adjustment to um yeah, to kind of just sort of dive headfirst into the online guitar space, but at the same time it's been just absolutely awesome and like just life changing, and I couldn't be more grateful, like it's just yeah, just the like yeah, just everything that's gone down in the last 8 months has just been absolutely mind blowing for me. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's just been really really great overall. It's it's a lot, and so, like I kind of have to like like every time I look at the follower count on Instagram, I kind of have to like look away, just be like, all right, just don't focus on that, just like don't worry about it. Like
Yeah.
while whenever I'm recording a video, I just have to like kind of just ignore that, and yeah, and just kind of yeah, just stay focused on like the playing and the music, and not worry about the how many people are gonna watch this when I post it. You know what I mean? So but yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, overall, it's just it's just been great, man, and I'm just like really, really, yeah, just so grateful, and just can't wait to see where it takes me, and yeah, so it's a lot, but overall, it's just it's awesome, man. So
Yeah, it feels less stressful like when I post videos of my playing, and usually it's just basic stuff. 'Cause I'm not going wild because I don't do that. But when I know tens of people are gonna see it, and you know tens of thousands of people are gonna see it, there's a
yeah,
different stress level there. You
yeah,
know?
yeah. I mean, and I when I'm especially like for the Instagram stuff, when I'm recording whenever I'm at a gig, or whether I'm like sitting here in my living room recording a video, it's like even though I try my best not to like think about it, like it almost you can't help but when you hit that record button, it's like, all right, I kind of got to deliver right now, because like
Right.
if yeah, if I'm gonna post this, it's I want it to be good. So and a lot of people are gonna see this, um so yeah, definitely, it's definitely a thing, man. For sure. But I just try not to like focus on it too much, and just kind of just kind of just do my thing, just how I always have, and just hope that people enjoy it. So
So after it all blew up, did you get a lot of like because right now y'all pretty much play around Jacksonville, and you could draw like a circle. I don't know how many miles, but that's basically your playing radius.
mhm.
Did you get a lot of pressure to like go on the road and do more, maybe even with other bands or stuff like that?
I mean, we've had a few things like, so I have people commenting all the time, just saying like, "Oh, come to Pennsylvania, come to blah blah blah, come here, come there,"
Right.
stuff like that. But I'd say, I mean,
Those are people who don't understand the logistics of
oh yeah,
touring, by
man.
the
Like
way.
we actually, I mean, we don't have to go too much into it. We kind of thought about doing a little mini tour, because we got invited to do some little. We got invited to do a festival and like guitar luthier thing, summit thing up in Michigan, and like we sat down at a couple rehearsals and just worked out like, okay, can we actually pull this off? And we ultimately decided not to, but like, yeah, it would have been just like so much to even just do a little week long thing, without, because we don't have like a
Yeah.
booking agent or anything like that, like just us doing everything. Like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot. So, and it's funny too, because I have people, I've had people message and comment and stuff saying like, hey man, I know you're probably out on tour, so like, no worries if you can't answer this. So I'm like, oh well, not exactly, but but so yeah, some people, they maybe don't have quite a picture of it, but yeah, I mean, we just are essentially just, yeah, we're just kind of a local, cover band. I think we're a good local cover band, and we're starting to work on originals and stuff. But and like you said, we do kind of
Yeah.
expand out of
Nice.
Jacksonville a little bit, but but yeah, no, I mean, in terms of like pressure to get out past that, I mean, I feel like it's more on ourselves. Like we want to kind of expand out from just Jacksonville. So yeah, I mean, we haven't had a ton of or I don't know, like yeah, we've basically just been wanting to get out more, and we have had people reach out, and like the online stuff, like recognition that I've got has resulted in some cool gigs that we wouldn't have gotten before, like the main one being the playing at the Big House Museum in Macon, Georgia, the Allman Brothers Museum. um,
Yeah, I saw that.
yeah, and like and we
I've still not I've still not made that pilgrimage to
oh
Macon
man,
yet.
you have
I need to do that.
it's so cool, man. Even aside from the Allman Brothers stuff, it's just a really beautiful little town. But yeah,
Yeah.
you got to make it up there, man. Um
Yeah.
but yeah, and so it's and we've kind of gotten some other gigs that are just still like close to Jacksonville, but places we might not have gotten into without the kind of like I guess draw or leverage or whatever of like the online stuff. But yeah, like I said, I think the pressure has mainly been on ourselves, like just kind of wanting to just wanting to expand out, and so we've been reaching out to some places, and our drummer mainly is the one that takes care of like the booking stuff, and he's just been killing it lately. But yeah, we're looking
Oh,
into
that's
going up
awesome.
to Nashville here maybe next year, and yeah, just kind of other places around the southeast. So
Yeah.
yeah, man.
No, very cool. And that's the beauty of it is it has opened this door, and you've already sort of answered a next question is because that's the next move, right? I mean, in my head, that's always been, you do the cover thing for so long, and then you get enough recognition, you're like, oh, now we need to do our own
Mm-hmm.
songs,
Mm-hmm.
and that's when the real nerve wracking starts to hit
Yes.
because there is no pain or misery like trying to write
Oh, I
songs.
know, man. I know. It's yeah, it's tough. I mean, I've just ever since I was a teenager, I've always been recording little ideas and demos and stuff like that in GarageBand and now like Logic and all that stuff. And um,
Yeah.
they've always just been little, just throwaway little ideas, and some of them could turn into something. But yeah, now that there kind of is a little bit of that pressure to like you know because the whole thing is like if you can only get so far as a cover band, obviously, you know what I mean. Like you can't like people like festivals will we'll reach out to festivals or whatever, and they'll be like, so do you have original music that you can send us? And we're like, no, you know
Yeah.
what I mean. And so like in order to get into those bigger kind of festivals and venues that we want to do, it's like yeah, you kind of have to have some originals, you have to have some stuff recorded. So that is where we're at right now, is we're in right in the thick of the process of trying to write original tunes, and we have a couple that are that are like complete original tunes, and we kind of have some other stuff in the works. Just this Tuesday, actually, we just had a rehearsal and we were working on some new stuff. But it can be tough with us because pretty much all of us have day jobs, so
Right.
it's and like with me, like just with juggling like that, and the gigs and the YouTube stuff and Instagram stuff, and like also just having a life and like a girlfriend and everything. It's like it's a
Yeah.
lot to kind of juggle. So yeah, it's tough to like find the time to write music, and it is very much a challenge. And like for me, I can't write lyrics. Like I just, at least not at this point, I just don't have that brain. Um, so yeah, just the whole process. It's tough, man. But yeah, we're working on it. We're trying to kind of figure out exactly like what type of stuff we want to do, because all of us have a lot of
Right.
different influences, and I mean, I feel like the stuff we already play is kind of obviously shaping it a little bit, um but yeah, it's a whole thing, man. For sure. We're right in the middle of trying
Yeah.
to, figure all that out right now. So
That's always such a challenge to try to make that leap, that move over. But I joke that original music is the gateway to not having to play 4 hour gigs anymore.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
exactly. Yep.
because there's a lot of people don't. don't realize just how grueling that 4 hour gig
Yeah,
that
man.
everybody expects you, that 45 on 15 off with an hour final set,
Yeah.
that I see as so standard.
Yeah, and I mean,
um
honestly, it's the whole thing. I mean, when you think about like driving to the gig, depending on how far away it is, setting up, loading in, setting up, then like playing, breaking down,
mhm.
loading out, driving home. Really, it's like 6, 7, 8 hours. It's like another full time job, basically. Like or it's like a
That's
whole work.
exactly,
It's
and
like
you're
a
doing it
shift.
2, 3, 4 times a week.
Yeah, exactly. It's like it's a lot, man. It's a lot. So that's the
Yeah.
goal.
And it's also brutal. It's brutal on a singer's voice. four
Yeah,
hours
yeah.
on top of talking
Mm-hmm.
during breaks or during the set.
Yeah,
It's brutal on a singer's voice.
yeah.
uh
Absolutely. Yeah, we're
it's
lucky to have two, sometimes three lead singers, so they can kind of share it between them. But yeah, I can only imagine if you're
Yeah,
like the only one. It's like just you singing. Like, that's a lot.
it's what I did for a long time. It's how I got nodules on my vocal cords.
Yeah, there you go. I
So
have a friend who just had to. Yeah, he had some vocal cord stuff going on. Couldn't sing for like several months. Yeah. So
yeah, it's a brutal
it's rough,
experience.
man. It's rough. But
So I'm because now obviously you've worked out some deals with a couple of companies. You're doing some work. You're now an official PRS artist.
yeah,
Not where I expected you to go. It's
you
okay.
know,
I'm not
it's
gonna hate on PRS.
yeah, man. I feel like yeah, I feel like people wouldn't expect me to go with that, but like I've always, I mean, I feel like it's hard to, I mean, anybody who's listening can take this with a grain of salt, but like, cause you're like, oh, well, now you're a PRS artist, so now you have to like, now you have to talk them up, but like, I mean, say whatever you want, but like, I genuinely have always dug their guitars. Like, I haven't
Yeah,
ended up, having a chance to own one until now, but like, I mean, I've always dug the McCartys and and like the Vela and stuff like that. Like I've always liked what they're about, you know what I mean? And so yeah, when they reached out, I was like, well, hell yeah, like let's go, Yeah, I was like, yeah, really stoked about that. But I get why I get why people might be a little surprised about that because like um I mostly am known for like playing Gibsons and like the mule
sure.
guitars now and more like old school style, old school looking guitars and stuff. But
And it's because a lot of the influences that are more obvious in your playing are
mhm.
Gibson players
Right,
typically.
right.
Uh,
Yep, exactly.
so
Yeah, so I mean, so yeah, I get it, but and I'm not like under any kind of contract or anything with them, so like I'm still allowed to play my Gibsons and stuff, but
yeah,
but yeah, no, man. I mean, I was like totally honored for them to to be reached out to by them, and yeah, like the guitar they gave me, that the NF53, like I have it sitting right there, like I genuinely like love it. Like it's awesome. It has one of the, I was telling my bandmate Jack last night, like it has one of the like best necks I've like felt on a guitar that I own, you know what I mean? So
yeah.
anyway, yeah.
Yeah, no, I get it. I've recently come around a little bit on PRS guitars. I spent a lot of years hating them. I didn't like their neck shapes. I tried their SE line
Hmm.
years and years and years ago and did not like them. I did not think they were particularly well made. This past, man, was it January or sometime recent, relatively recently?
Hmm.
I picked up in a trade because I'm constantly trading gear. It's a terrible disease. Um, I picked up in a trade a one of the S2 594s,
Okay.
right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And that was the first guitar that I played that I was like, oh, maybe there's something to these
Yeah, man.
this new crop of PRS. And so I don't dislike them as much as they're still not my preferred brand, but
Right.
that's fine.
Yeah.
I can get that they are for somebody.
Yeah, and I mean nothing wrong with that. Like I think some of the like the real like true hate for them is kind of silly. That that you
Oh
see
yeah.
online, like people are like, oh, like I had a guy comment on like a TikTok saying like I've played thousands of PRS guitars and they all suck. And I'm just like, come on, dude, like come on. It's like
There's no way. First of all, there's no way he's played thousands.
yeah, I know.
It's just not.
Yeah, yeah, but
Like let me do the math for you on how many you'd have to go through,
yeah,
like a
exactly.
day.
Yeah, it's like it's just silliness. But I mean, I get it. Like if if they're just not your thing or if they're not someone's thing, like they do have a certain just vibe to them. They have a certain look, and
Yeah.
they do have a certain sound that is maybe not like um I don't know how to describe it. It's just a little more hi-fi and like not quite as, doesn't have like quite the um I don't know. Yeah, they're just a little bit more of a hi-fi kind of sort of crystalline, like
Yeah.
sort of like really clean, precise type sound, which I can understand why people might not dig that. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're great. So I don't love all of them,
Yeah.
but like I think the more vintage kind of inspired ones. Yeah, I'm totally down.
Yeah,
So
that's where I am. 100%. The 594,
hmm
all the McCarty line, um, the David Grissom. Basically,
yeah,
if David Grissom had a hand in helping design it, I
yeah,
like it.
yeah,
That's
exactly.
what it amounts to.
Yep, yep, yep. And
So,
yeah, this will be like a little bit of a spoiler, but like I'm actually or like for people who watch my stuff, but like I may or may not be getting some sort of McCarty here soon. We'll see.
oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
See, the
So
the one like if I had to pick, I've had this talk with Zach from Mythos a few times.
hmm
Um, if because I'm not a huge PRS guy, but like I've thought about if I were to go that route again, like if I were to get a PRS, it'd be like one. I
hmm
wouldn't like I have multiple Gibson guitars, I have
hmm
multiple Fender guitars. For me, PRS is like the kind of brand that I'm gonna have one of your guitars,
yeah,
and
yeah.
therefore it's gonna be the right one.
hmm hmm
Uh, and right now I'm torn and split between like the David Grissom, which I love,
hmm
and the one that Zach goes on and on about. It's the 594 semi
The
hollow
hollow
that
one,
he's got.
yeah, man. That's kind
Yeah.
of like I kind of already have decided on what I'm gonna get, but like, but yeah, I was really heavily considering that hollow body, man, because like kind of based on his like testimony, and I did get to play one last year, and it really is something, man. Like it is a special guitar for sure. Um, the David Grissom is awesome, but like I'm just not a tremolo guy. That's the only thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm just not a like I literally don't have a single guitar with a tremolo. Like they're all hardtail.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I don't know how many I have, but I have a bunch.
true.
I'm that guy. Like that's my thing. Like if I'm playing slide, which I don't play slide like you. Uh, I play Elmore James kind of
Hey,
slide or
that's the
or
original,
Muddy
man.
Waters.
Right, right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously that's a sound. It's a thing. I'd love to play slide better, and I'm working on it to do the more melodic thing.
hmm hmm
I think I just got really intimidated the first time I ever heard Derek Trucks play, and first time I
Yeah.
saw him play,
See,
and I was like, "Why even bother?"
See, I literally I just posted a video the other day. It's like a like 5 slide guitar tips or whatever. But that was like the last or that was the main one that I said is like don't get discouraged right away when like if you've only been playing slide for a week or a month or whatever, and then you see Derek Trucks. It's like the gap between that is so huge. It's like I mean like don't like you can't watch guys like that and be like, oh, I'll never be that good. Like you just have to start simple and just just kind of like be okay with where you're at, and like yeah, you just have to yeah, just take it one step at a time, like don't like because that's one thing that I see people comment on my stuff too. They're um like, oh, I want to, I never want to pick up my guitar again, after watching, and I'm just like, like I've never felt that way. Like we're going off topic here from what we're talking about, but like,
No, no, this is totally on topic.
well, true, but yeah, like even for and I think part of it, like I was lucky to have started playing guitar really young, and so I was kind of like naive and didn't like have a concept of like how hard it was to learn guitar,
Right.
but yeah, like all throughout, even learning slide and everything, like I never had that moment where I was like, oh, like I'll never be able to play that good. Oh no, like woe is me. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like I was always just more like inspired. Like I just thought it was so cool what like Dwayne and Derek and whoever was doing. Like all I cared about was just like I just want to be able to do that. Like I just want to learn how to do that. And like there was no other like thought process. Like it didn't matter how like bad I sounded at first. I just was like always just gonna throw myself at it until I could do it like halfway decent.
Yeah.
Um, so
No, that
anyway,
that makes
yeah.
total sense. And the first time I saw Derek live was at the New Daisy Theater in Memphis. So great theater that I don't think is actually operating as a theater anymore. It was
Mm-hmm,
for a long, long time. I saw a lot of great shows there.
mm-hmm,
Memphis was the closest town to Clarksdale that actually had like big shows come through.
Mm-hmm.
So, and a buddy of mine who dad owned the music store that I spent a lot of time in. He and I drove up Marshall. He and I drove up to see Derek. It was the Derek Trucks band
Mm-hmm.
still at the time, and so we sat in the balcony, which at the New Daisy Theater was where you wanted to sit if you cared about sound.
Oh,
Like
okay,
if you
gotcha.
wanted it to sound good, the balcony was where you sat.
Okay, cool.
So that's where we sat. Not a bad seat. I mean, this is like it's a tiny theater. I'm guess maybe 1,000 cap.
Mm.
Maybe it's probably smaller than that. And so we watched. I've actually got the board recording of that show
Oh,
because
really
they
nice.
had it up on archive.org.
When was this? Like
So
what? Like what?
I'd have to look at the date again, but this was a good while. I'm thinking like oh 07. No, it might have been 10.
Okay, so
Somewhere
yeah,
in that 7 to 10
Derek
range.
Trucks
Somewhere in
band
there.
era for then. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we went and saw him on the drive home because it's like an hour and a half drive home, right?
Mm-hmm.
We basically didn't talk at all until we got out of Memphis proper. And like
Sure.
we crossed the state line,
Like-
and Marshall looked at me while I'm driving and said, he said, a lot of times when I go see a great guitar player or a great guitarist, he said, I either want to go home and practice or I want to go home and quit. And he said, right now, the way he plays guitar is so different than anything I have ever experienced. I don't feel either one of those things. He may as well have been playing flute.
Right, yeah, exactly. That's yeah, man. I mean, it's yeah, I just wish that I could have seen seen the Derek Trucks band back in that era, but still, I mean, I've gotten to see Tedeschi Trucks like I don't even know how many times, like 9 times or so, and yeah, man. I mean, I still kind of get that feeling whenever I see Derek play in person. It's just so inspiring, and just like, I mean, you know, people like to compare him to to Dwayne a lot and everything, but like he
Sure.
really just, I mean, obviously that's like the foundation, but like, I mean, he really did just completely just blow it wide open with an entirely new thing. And like, obviously he has a lot of influences that, and he would probably say, oh, well, I just took this and combined it into and that's my sound. But like, like with the Sacred Steel, lap steel players, like Aubrey Gent and everything. And, and the Indian classical stuff, like, obviously he kind of took all that and made it his own thing, but just the way that he put it together, like he just really did just do something totally different that no one has, had ever done before, and no one will ever do anything like that again, So,
Yeah.
so yeah, I
It's
totally understand that, man. And it was a similar
it's
thing
really
for me when I
remarkable
first
how he made
got into him.
the instrument his own.
Yeah.
Like he has
Yep.
his absolute own voice
Mm-hmm.
in a way that I didn't expect out of a slide guitarist, which
Yeah.
is weird because that should be the style you'd expect the most unique voice, because once you take away the limitations of
frets.
equal temperament,
Yeah.
and frets,
Mm-hmm.
it makes sense that you'd find more of your voice
True.
that way. So that was just my naivety. Naivety.
Naivete. Yeah, I think you get it.
Somebody
I think
tell
you
me.
got it right.
Yeah. That was just me
Yeah, no,
being wrong.
when you put it that way, that does make sense, because yeah, it's like, people say like, oh, there's, you only got 12 notes or whatever, but like when there's only 12 notes you need to work with, but with slide there really is like a literally infinite amount of, it's like a spectrum of notes instead of like, these are how many you have. So yeah, that is a good way to put it. It's like, it would make sense that everyone would kind of have their own unique voice on slide, but I think to me what it is just like, it's just so deeply like rooted and associated with blues and like the traditional blues thing that
Yeah.
like I feel like it's, for a long time after like, Dwayne and that whole thing, and all the other slide greats, like it's hard to see slide being anything past that, like seeing it like it's hard to, it was hard to imagine it like being anything more than just like, no, you know what I mean? So yeah, I think that's probably why, like, yeah, he was just like, Derek is just so like, it just feels so out of the box, and so just like, just unique because because he is, but it's like, yeah, it's just people just, slide guitar like was just blues for a long time. And obviously like
It
there's pedal
was.
steel and Hawaiian music and stuff, but like, how, we kind of, in our sort of world, we look at slide guitar equals blues for the most part. Um,
Yeah, and
so
now
yeah.
you've got a whole generation of slide guitarists who, I mean, you obviously you have a lot of those blues roots
Hmm.
because of the Dwayne connection, and you're
Hmm.
in the South, so that's part of it. Like
Yeah.
you weren't going to escape it.
Hmm.
But then you've got a whole crop of people like Derek who developed his own style that I wouldn't. I Derek can play blues, but I would not call his style his natural style blues.
Yeah.
It's its own thing.
Yeah. It's just its own. Yeah. Yeah. It's
And
totally its
same
own
thing
thing.
with someone like Ariel Posen
Hmm.
or Joey Landreth. When they quote their influences to you, they don't tell you Elmore James and Muddy
Yeah.
Waters
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
those guys.
I mean, I
They
just,
tell you Lowell George
yeah.
and
Yeah.
all the other incredible slide greats, and of course they list Derek Trucks.
Yeah, 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 absolutely, man. And yeah, I feel like we're kind of in almost like a slide renaissance right now, kind of like I feel like there's so many great like kind of younger slide players all kind of coming up at the same time. I mean, and I feel like so I think Derek Trucks was maybe like the initial spark, but honestly, I feel like Joey and Ariel have been I feel like they were kind of they were like the modern or like the new like the slide heroes of like the late 2010s 2020s, and I feel like they have sparked so many people to like to just get into slide. I mean, you have like um yeah, just off the top of my head, I mean, there's like thinking of guys mainly on like kind of the online Instagram space, but there's like
Yeah.
there's Walter Drews, Jules Leahy, which I've kind of become friends with. He's a great dude. Who else? I mean, Lauer Joe Metz. I think I probably said that horribly wrong, but he's in Driving and Crying, and he was in Sturgill Simpson.
Oh yeah,
I
yeah,
don't know.
yeah.
Yeah, he is like incredible, but um, and Mike Gannon. He's really great. He kind of leans more on the Derek Truck side, but like he's an incredible slide player. And yeah, there's just I don't know, there's just so many like that are just kind of all coming up right now, and yeah, it's just it's a really cool thing to see for sure. So
Yeah. No, I love it. So we're coming close to the end of the episode here,
cool.
and so what we're going to do, because I have a couple more questions about gear, and then
Hmm.
over on the Patreon episode, I have the same question I've been asking all of my guests,
Okay.
and so I haven't prepped you for it because I like for it to be a spur of the moment
Oh
thing,
boy.
and
Okay.
you, yeah. I'm gonna make you're gonna have to give me a list of 5 things. I'm just gonna tell you it's that.
Oof.
So,
All right.
um,
Okay.
oh yeah. So we're gonna move on though, but in the time we've got here before we close, tell listeners where they can find you, all the places, all the things you're doing, anything you want to mention.
Yeah, so I mean mainly the main places that I'm posting online are Instagram and YouTube, and for both of those you can just look up Dylan Adams Guitar.
Hmm.
I
Or you can check the links below; they are in the show notes.
Yep, thank you. And yeah, those are the main things. I mean, you can also check out we have a smokestack YouTube channel. I believe it's called Smokestack Official. I think that it's kind of like we're still kind of figuring out what we want to do with it, but we have some videos of us playing on there. And and yeah, just mainly just check out the YouTube and Instagram stuff. That's kind of where I'm mainly posting right now. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome.
So
Well,
yeah,
we're gonna move over to Patreon. Dylan, I really
cool.
appreciate you doing the podcast and coming on and talking today.
Dude, yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me, man. It's been a great time.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, listeners, until we see each other next time, please remember you can go over to 40wattpodcast.com where I am woefully behind in uploading show notes, but I will get caught up eventually. Also, if you want to support the podcast, go to patreon.com/40wattpodcast, where for as little as $3 a month, you can support this podcast. For $5 a month, you get bonus episodes like the one we're about to record over on Patreon of this episode of this show. And other than that, y'all know, as usual, be good yourselves, be kind to each other, and make some noise.